At a tense family dinner, my dad stood up, pointed at me, and yelled, "You're the most selfish son I've ever known." I quietly walked out, but what happened after that shattered their pride and brought every one of them to their knees. My parents disregarded my urgent hospital calls, prioritizing my brother's tantrum about a traffic citation. "What's all this commotion? You're not expiring. Cease your frantic dialing. Mark requires immediate funds for his penalty." Consequently, I arranged for my legal counsel to meet me there. And when they eventually honored me with their arrival, they uncovered the genuine repercussions of their disregard. Thank you for being here with me today. I trust you're experiencing a wonderful day wherever you might be. I would appreciate it if you could share in the comments which metropolis or nation you are viewing from, and what time it currently is there. Now, let us commence our narrative together. The metallic essence of disinfectant permeated the atmosphere, a sharp, sterile odor that did little to conceal the iron-like scent of my own blood. Each inhalation was a fragile triumph, every pulse of my heart a painful reminder that I was technically still alive. I lay beneath the harsh, flickering illumination of an emergency department cubicle, my left limb elevated and throbbing like an agonizing percussion. Medical practitioners and nurses had come and gone, their expressions kind yet detached, their inquiries precise. They had stabilized my condition, assessed the damage, and left me in solitude with my thoughts and the faint, continuous chirping of the monitoring devices beside my cot. That's when the genuine anguish commenced. I clumsily sought my mobile device on the small surface next to me. The display was fractured, a web-like pattern spreading from its core, mirroring the break I suspected was forming somewhere within my leg. My fingers, trembling from shock and an unnamed sensation, navigated to my parents' contact, my emergency contacts, the individuals who were supposed to be present. The initial attempt went to voicemail. The next two also. On the third try, my mother finally responded, her voice strained with annoyance. "Alex, what is it? Do you realize the hour? And your brother is having a complete breakdown. We are attempting to manage it." A chilling sensation enveloped me, colder than the thin hospital covering. "Mom," I whispered, my voice. I'm in the emergency room. There was an incident." A moment of quiet. Then a sigh laced with impatience. "An incident? Are you all right? You're not expiring, are you? Because Mark just received a traffic citation. Can you believe it? A traffic citation, and he's utterly devastated. He needs funds immediately to settle the fine, or they're going to impound his vehicle. He's practically weeping." My father's voice, a low murmur of irritation, emerged from the background. "Is that Alex? Tell him to cease making a commotion. Mark requires us right now. Why is he calling, panicking?" My chest constricted as if encased in barbed wire. I was lying in an emergency room, injured and isolated, and they were dismissing it as a trivial matter because my 30-year-old sibling was distressed about a parking infraction. Or perhaps it was a moving violation. It was inconsequential. It was minor. "Mom, Dad, I might have a fractured leg. I'm undergoing scans." I attempted again, the words catching in my throat. "Oh, Alex, don't be so theatrical," my mother stated, her tone softening just enough to sound condescending. "You're resilient. You'll be fine. Mark needs us to concentrate right now. He's truly sensitive about such matters. Why are you calling in a panic? You're not expiring. Cease your frantic dialing. Mark requires money urgently to settle the fine." The connection severed. She disconnected on me. The phone slipped from my quivering fingers onto the thin mattress. The cold metallic hospital bed rails felt sharp against my skin. I gazed at the sterile ceiling panels, the fluorescent light humming above. A sound that seemed deafening in the sudden quiet after their pronouncements. "You're not expiring. Cease your frantic dialing. Mark requires money urgently to settle the fine." Those phrases replayed in my thoughts, a cruel, distorted lullaby. It wasn't merely about the mishap. It wasn't merely about the telephone conversation. It was about everything. A lifetime condensed into one brutal moment of clarity. Growing up, I was consistently the conscientious one. Mark was the delicate one, the one who demanded additional assistance, extra endurance, extra everything. If I achieved an A, it was anticipated. If Mark secured a C, it was celebrated as his best effort. If I desired something, I saved for it. If Mark wanted something, he threw a tantrum or appeared sorrowful. And somehow, the money materialized, frequently from my parents' savings. Savings I knew I'd indirectly contributed to since I commenced part-time employment at 16. When I attended university, I held 2 occupations to cover textbooks and living costs, taking out minimal loans, determined not to burden my parents. Mark attended a state institution nearer to home, and they bore the majority of the expense, complaining constantly about the outlay, yet somehow discovering supplementary funds for his social engagements. When he graduated, they pressured me to assist him in securing employment, even though I was just embarking on my own profession. He admires you, Alex. You're his elder brother. He needs your guidance. Guidance swiftly transformed into financial provision. A few hundred here for lodging, 1,000 there for vehicle repairs, settling a credit card balance he'd overlooked. It was consistently framed as temporary, just until he established himself. But his feet never quite landed. He'd secure a position, lose it, require more assistance. My parents would sigh, wring their hands, and then contact me. Alex, Mark's truly struggling. He's contemplating returning home. Could you help him out just this once? It would mean the world to us. It wasn't just Mark. My parents developed an expensive custom of requiring aid. A roof repair they couldn't afford. A medical invoice. A vehicle replacement. I would dispatch the funds. It felt like a perverted form of tribute. My hard-earned money dispatched homeward because family aids family. I rationalized it. They were my progenitors. They raised me. Mark was my sibling. He was merely navigating a phase. I convinced myself that this was affection. This was kinship. If I contributed enough, assisted enough, was responsible enough, they would finally regard me with the same effortless admiration they held for Mark, even when he was faltering. That was my blind spot, my profound, aching yearning for their unconditional affirmation, for the kind of facile tenderness they lavished upon Mark, which kept me bound to this draining dynamic. I believed my sacrifices were constructing connections, but they were merely strengthening the restraints. There were instances of uncertainty, of course, like the time I visited home and there wasn't a single photograph of me prominently displayed, while Mark's framed images adorned the mantelpiece and walls, even old ones from high school sports he barely participated in, or the holidays where discussions revolved entirely around Mark's latest minor drama or triumph. While my achievements were met with a brief nod and a swift change of topic, it felt like I was an employee, a dependable resource, but not a cherished family member in the same manner Mark was. But I'd suppress the emotions. They love you in their own way, I would tell myself. They just worry about Mark more because he's the sensitive one. Lying there in the ward, the humming illumination, the antiseptic aroma, the throbbing discomfort in my leg, their voices reverberating. You're not expiring. Mark requires money urgently. It all coalesced. There was no unique way of loving. There was only this. This was the ultimate manifestation of my standing in their universe. Somewhere beneath Mark's parking citation, somewhere beneath their inconvenience, the longing for their affection didn't merely perish. It was savagely extinguished by their apathy in my moment of greatest necessity. This was my nadir. Alone, wounded, and finally perceiving the truth without the hazy filter of expectation. And in that instant, the ache in my chest, the one unrelated to the incident, yielded to something else, something cold and firm: determination. I would no longer be the dependable resource. I would no longer be the contingency plan. I would no longer be the ATM. They desired to prioritize Mark's fleeting, fabricated crisis over my genuine one. Fine, they could have that, but they would forfeit everything else. I reached for my phone again, my hand steadier this time. The fractured display illuminated, showing their disregarded call. I ignored it. I accessed my contacts and scrolled past Mom and Dad. I proceeded to Ms. Emily Dawson, my legal counsel. Contacting Ms. Dawson from the emergency room felt surreal. My voice was feeble, raspy from discomfort and the raw emotion that had just torn through me. Ms. Dawson, I uttered, endeavoring to maintain composure. It's Alex. I apologize for calling so late, but I'm in the ER. She was composed, professional. Alex, are you all right? What transpired? I briefly recounted the accident, then got to the crux, the words spilling out tinged with bitterness. I contacted my parents to inform them. They told me I was making a fuss, that my brother had a meltdown over a traffic citation, and they were occupied assisting him. They stated I wasn't expiring and shouldn't call panicking, and they disconnected. Silence on her end for a moment. A different kind of silence than my mother's dismissive one. This one felt heavy, attentive. I see, Ms. Dawson said softly. Alex, I'm so sorry you're enduring that, especially now. I'm finished, Ms. Dawson, I declared, the words resolute despite my pain. Absolutely finished. I wish to sever ties with them. All of it. The funds I dispatch, everything. And I need to ascertain what I can legally do to ensure they can never do this again, to safeguard myself from them, from all of it. I swiftly explained the history of financial provision, the incessant demands, the favoritism. Ms. Dawson listened patiently. Based on what you're conveying, Alex, this appears to be a clear pattern of emotional and financial exploitation, she stated. While severing personal bonds is a choice, we can certainly undertake legal measures to formalize financial boundaries and protect your assets and future. We can revoke any powers of attorney, alter beneficiaries on accounts, ensure they are not listed in any manner that grants them control or access should something befall you. It will be complicated. They will not react favorably. I no longer care how they react, I asserted, and I meant it. The raw wound of their neglect in the ER had cauterized the last remnant of me that cared about their approval, or their public image. What do I need to do? I can come to the hospital, she offered without hesitation. We can get some initial documents drafted and signed. Let's protect you, Alex. While awaiting Ms. Dawson, a nurse entered to check my vital signs. She was kind, her smile genuine. She adjusted my covering, refilled my water. Simple acts of care from a stranger felt more significant in that moment than years of my parents' conditional affection. I also observed a text message appear from my friend Sarah. Hey Alex, just heard you had an accident. So worried. Let me know if you need anything. Anything at all. Sending healing thoughts. A small, unexpected warmth spread through my chest. Sarah was aware of some of my family issues, but I'd always minimized the severity, shielding them even from my companions. Her simple message, focused entirely on my well-being, was a stark contrast to my parents' call. It was a lifeline. It reminded me that authentic connection existed outside that harmful circle. Ms. Dawson arrived approximately an hour later. She was discreet, attired in a professional suit, carrying a slender brief. Seeing her enter the sterile cubicle felt like reinforcements arriving, like assistance had finally materialized. She sat by my cot, calm and focused. She had brought initial documents based on our conversation. She elucidated each one carefully. Revocation of a general power of attorney I'd foolishly granted my mother years ago, just in case. Alterations to beneficiaries on a small life insurance policy. Revisions to a basic will draft I'd had prepared. Simple, logical steps to eliminate their legal access and claims. As I affixed my signature to each page, my hand steady despite the ache in my leg, a different kind of pain surfaced, sorrow. This wasn't merely signing papers. It was signing the divorce decree from my kin. The death certificate of the hope I'd clung to for 3 decades. Each signature was a forceful blow to the crumbling facade of family helps family. But beneath the grief was a burgeoning sense of empowerment. I was reclaiming authority. I was prioritizing myself, perhaps for the first time ever. Alex, Ms. Dawson stated, pausing as I signed a form. You mentioned you've been supporting them financially for years. Do you possess records of this? Yes, I replied, my voice stronger. I began keeping track about 6 months ago, after Mark required another emergency payment for a debt I didn't even know he had. Something just felt amiss. I didn't know why I was doing it, but I started saving bank statements, copying emails where they requested money. Even started recording sometimes when they'd call, making demands or attempting to guilt me. A survival instinct, I suppose? That was the subtle twist. The documentation wasn't a sudden act of retribution. It was a gradual realization over time that the dynamic was unhealthy, coupled with a deep-seated need to validate my own confusing reality. They kept asserting I was imagining things, that I wasn't helping that much, that they did so much for me. Part of me started documenting to prove it to myself, to halt the manipulation from within my own mind. Ms. Dawson's eyes registered a flicker of surprise. Then approval. That is excellent, Alex. That documentation will be crucial if they decide to dispute anything, or more likely, attempt to damage your reputation. It provides concrete evidence of the extent of the financial reliance and your efforts. I granted her access codes for online banking and directed her towards cloud storage where I'd saved documents. She began compiling figures swiftly on her laptop. The increasing number on the screen, the total sum of money I'd effectively relinquished, was astonishing. It wasn't merely a few thousand here and there. Over the years, it amounted to a small fortune, a down payment on a residence, my own secure nest egg. Instead, it had propped up Mark's irresponsibility and my parents' lifestyle and demands. As Ms. Dawson worked, my phone vibrated again. A text from Mark. Heard you're in the hospital. Hope you're not faking it for attention. LOL. Parents said it's just a sprain. Anyway, did Mom tell you I need that money for the ticket? It's kind of urgent. My blood ran cold, then hot with indignation. Not a single word about my well-being, just a continuation of the same self-absorbed narrative. It solidified my resolve. This wasn't family. This was a business transaction they believed they were entitled to. Ms. Dawson concluded the initial paperwork. All right, Alex. This is signed and initiated. I will manage everything from here. I'll formally inform your parents of the changes. Given the circumstances, I anticipate their reaction will be significant. They are likely en route here now, aren't they? I nodded, a knot of apprehension tightening in my stomach despite my determination. Probably after the hospital called them too. Good, she stated, her tone calm. Let them come. We are prepared. We waited. The sterile room felt charged with anticipation. The quiet hum of the machines, the distant sounds of the ER. They were the backdrop to a confrontation about to begin, not with fists, but with truth and consequences. My leg throbbed, a physical anchor grounding me in the reality of my situation. My heart pounded not from fear anymore, but from the adrenaline of confrontation. I gazed at the stack of signed papers, the evidence Ms. Dawson was compiling. I wasn't the helpless child awaiting approval anymore. I was a man with boundaries, standing on the truth. The door to my cubicle swung open, and my parents entered. Their arrival was a meticulously choreographed display. Smiles plastered on their countenances for the benefit of any passing personnel. A hurried, almost theatrical, "Oh, Alex darling." We rushed right over as soon as we could get away. My mother's voice was pitched just a little too high. My father appeared impatient, glancing at his timepiece. They approached the cot, but their gaze landed on Ms. Dawson first. Their smiles faltered, replaced by suspicion. "Who is this?" my father demanded, his voice losing its performative warmth instantly. "Good evening," Ms. Dawson said calmly, rising from her chair. "I'm Emily Dawson, Alex's attorney." The masks dropped completely. My mother's face went pale, then flushed crimson. My father's jaw tightened. "Attorney? What is this, Alex? What is transpiring? Are you suing us?" "No, Mom, Dad," I stated, my voice clear and steady, surprising myself. "I'm not suing you." I looked them directly in the eye. "I'm protecting myself from you." My mother let out a small gasp, clutching her chest dramatically. "Protecting yourself from us?" Your own parents? After everything we've done for you? Everything I've done for me? I repeated, a bitter edge creeping into my voice. Is that what you call it? Disregarding my calls from the emergency room because Mark was having a meltdown over a traffic citation? Telling me not to panic because I wasn't expiring? Is that the sum total of what you believe your obligation is? Their eyes darted away, unable to meet mine. We were just worried about Mark. He was very upset. My mother sputtered, resorting instantly to rationalization. And the hospital called us anyway. We knew you were fine. Fine? I almost chuckled. A dry, humorless sound that hurt my ribs. I'm lying here with a potential fractured leg, sedated with pain medication, alone because my family was too busy coddling a grown man over a parking citation. Don't tell me I was fine. You are making a mountain out of a molehill, Alex, my father stated, his voice hardening. You are being overly dramatic. We were coming as soon as we could. Mark needed us. His signature phrase, justifying Mark's needs above all else. He needed money. I corrected him. The truth laid bare. He needed money for a fine. That was more important than your son being in the ER. Just like money has always been more important. My money. Ms. Dawson stepped forward, holding a stack of documents. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, Alex has retained me to inform you of his decisions regarding his personal and financial affairs. Her tone was calm, clinical, a stark contrast to the emotional storm brewing. Effective immediately, Alex is ceasing all voluntary financial contributions to you and his brother. This includes any allowances, debt payments, or assistance with bills. Additionally, he has revoked any powers of attorney, revised his will, and updated beneficiaries on accounts to remove you. She handed the documents to my father. He accepted them, his face a mask of disbelief. My mother snatched one from him, her eyes scanning the page, her mouth opening in a silent gasp as the meaning sunk in. The money. That was what truly impacted them. Not my pain, not their neglect, but the loss of their dependable income stream. You can't do this! My mother shrieked, her voice losing all pretense of calm. We need that money! Mark needs that money! We've come to rely on it! Exactly, I stated quietly. You've come to rely on it. You saw me as a source of funds, not a son. This is outrageous, my father roared, crumpling the papers slightly in his hand. After everything we sacrificed for you, we raised you. You owe us. His face was red with fury. His social facade completely gone, revealing the entitlement beneath. What do I owe you? I inquired, pushing myself up slightly, disregarding the jolt of discomfort in my leg. Do I owe you for years of being second best? Do I owe you for constantly bailing Mark out while you praised me for being responsible, then punished me by demanding my resources? Do I owe you for ignoring me when I was hurt? We never ignored you, my mother insisted, the manipulation returning. You are imagining things. You are a cruel, ungrateful child. Mark is the one who struggles. He needs more support. You've always been the easy one. This was their core narrative. I was easy because I didn't cause them problems and provided solutions. Mark was difficult and sensitive because he constantly needed bailing out, which justified their focus and my financial input. Oh, you think I imagine things? I stated, my voice dangerously low. About you ignoring me, about prioritizing Mark? I looked at Ms. Dawson. Ms. Dawson, would you mind playing the recording from earlier? Ms. Dawson nodded, taking out her phone. I had initiated recording on my phone right after my mother answered, fueled by a strange instinct, a morbid curiosity about how they would react. That recording had automatically synchronized to my cloud storage, and I had granted Ms. Dawson access. She pressed play. The sterile room was filled with the tiny sound of my own strained voice saying, "Mom, I'm in the ER. There was an accident." Followed by my mother's impatient sigh, my father's dismissive grunt, and then their voices, cold and clear. "Why are you making such a fuss? You're not expiring. Cease your frantic dialing. Mark requires money urgently to settle the fine." The sound ceased. Silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. My parents stared at Ms. Dawson's phone, then at me, their faces frozen in horror. Their own voices, their own cruel indifference, played back to them in undeniable audio. The manipulation died on their lips. The rationalization sounded hollow. This wasn't Alex being dramatic. This was them caught red-handed. What is that?" my mother stammered, her face ashen. "That," I stated, looking directly at them, "is the truth. That is what you said. That is what you are." My father's face contorted with rage, a terrifying mask of exposed entitlement. You recorded us? How dare you? That's illegal." "Actually, in this state, it's not, under these circumstances," Ms. Dawson interjected calmly, shattering his bluster with a simple legal fact. "And the content speaks for itself. Wouldn't you agree it rather clearly illustrates the nature of the relationship and the priority given to Mr. Miller's actual medical emergency versus his brother's minor issue? This recording, coupled with the extensive financial records Alex has compiled," she gestured towards her laptop screen where the large sum of money was visible, "provides a compelling case should you choose to contest Alex's decision to cease financial support. It rather dismantles any claim of his being ungrateful when viewed against the backdrop of his substantial contributions and your documented neglect." They were cornered. Their image was shattered, not just to me, but to a neutral professional observer. The financial loss was real, the evidence undeniable. Rage warred with panic in their eyes. "We will sue you!" my mother shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me. "We will tell everyone what a horrible son you are.